Welcome to the second part of the alternate endings of my Earth Live lesson, originally shown on Lizzie Daly's YouTube channel, which can be found in the links below. Now, today I kind of want to talk about the Galapagos Mockingbirds, one of the more important species that Darwin saw there, because this was the group of species which inspired him to start following through with the idea that maybe species were never locked into one shape, size, or group. Now, when he stepped foot on the Galapagos Islands, it wasn't as though evolution, the theory of natural selection, slapped him in the face and ta-da, it was done. No, it was more gradual than that. But on the islands, the mockingbirds were the birds that did it. If you want to know a little bit more about how he was thinking about it, then you can go and look back at part 1, which was the Galapagos finches. Now, the mockingbirds, they were kind of tawny brown, lightly coloured bird that got black and white stripes on their wing, a little bit of grey in there, speckled, really, really pretty little birds. And some of them can mock, whereas the majority of them, despite being called mockingbirds, cannot, but sure. But Darwin was listening to each of them, each of the species, and bearing in mind that each island has its own main group and they all look, well, they all look basically the same, even more so than the finches. But he noted their song, he noted their pelage, their coat colour. He noted even their diet, to the fact that they look the same, and they look very, very similar to those on the South American coast as well, but something wasn't right. Something was subtly different between all of these. And it was suggesting if they were placed here by a deity 900 kilometres off the South American coast, why make them so similar to the South American species, but more so why make them so similar to each other, and having so similar pelage colour, coat colour, and different songs and different diets? It didn't quite make sense to him, and he did go so far as to try and work out, every single one that he came across, their diet, which was remarkable because these birds all look the same, and he went to the detail of going to understand the minutiae of what they were eating, but didn't have a look or record the locations of where he caught any of his finches, which this is what I seem remarkable, because the finches are a heck of a lot more diverse and variable than the mockingbirds, which all look the same. But anyway, that is a rant for a completely different video. But what he did notice in them specifically was their tameness. No, instead, some of the populations of mockingbird on the islands were scared, of course, where pirates and ships and traders come through and raided a few populations, but the majority of them were exceptionally tame, to the extent where he could prod them off a branch with his gun, or capture them on a little drinking vessel that he was holding, this far away from his face. But he was understanding about the learning fear as well, and how that may have influenced the species, with humans turning up. So already he's realising the behaviour is definitely not immutable or stays the same. It could shift and change. So why not the species as a whole? Well, these little guys are incredibly intelligent and cheeky little animals. They will follow you around, and they will chat at you and chirp at you and mug you for your lunch, if you're not careful, and you're weak-willed against the cute little mockingbirds. According to recent research, which both certainly surprised myself, and probably Charles Darwin should he have known this, but on the island of Hispaniola, quite small to the south, the population of mockingbirds there in 1987 was recorded to have a bit of a weird diet change. Now, not much research has been done on this since then, but it is odd, and it is still certainly growing and progressing throughout that population, but it hasn't quite got to any of the other islands yet. The Hispaniola mockingbird started to drink blood, but not so much in terms of kind of on their own, under the cover of night, like a bat or an actual vampire, should you believe in such things. No, these guys... Toilet. So no, these guys didn't drink blood on their own or under the cover of darkness like an actual vampire bat or a vampire, should you want to believe in such things. No, they gathered en masse in the daylight to feed on baby seabirds, specifically that of the waved albatross and blue-footed booby. It's almost slightly disturbing to think about. Now, it starts off with a symbiotic relationship, if we start at the very beginning. Mockingbirds feed off skin parasites on iguanas and off seabirds. They will peck at the skin and they'll peck at the scales of the iguanas. Any ticks on there, any parasites they may have picked up in the sea, perfect dinner for the birds and gets rid of the parasites for the iguana. It's a win-win relationship. However, ticks are drinking blood, filled with blood. That's possibly a cause where these mockingbirds got a taste for it. Then as soon as maybe a scale was nicked and a bit of blood was drawn from the iguana itself, the mockingbirds then learned that that blood inside the tick also comes from the inside of the iguana. And now we have an issue, because they are intelligent and they do learn, and then they started nicking scales off the iguanas and drinking the blood straight from the iguana. And then they started nicking the skin of baby birds. By accident. This was by accident, and then they drew blood and they drank that blood to the extent that, on average, there were 4 mockingbirds drinking the blood of a seabird at a time. It's really grim reading. Now, the maximum recorded from the group of scientists researching at the time was 28 mockingbirds drinking the blood of a seabird at one time. That bird was dead within 24 hours. It is exceptionally dark reading, but not only that, when the researchers are out scrambling over lava and sharp rocks, if they nicked their legs or arms, and they stayed still for any length of time, the mockingbird would come down, land on their knee, and then start drinking the blood from their knee. It is something that has spread throughout that population, almost as a culture, but hasn't spread to the other islands yet. Now, that is some of the natural history behind the Galapagos mockingbirds and what Darwin thought of them. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you learned something, despite the slightly macabre ending. But if you did enjoy it, there are 2 other endings, and part 1 with the Galapagos finch and part 3 with the Galapagos tortoises, as well as the full talk that I did on Lizzie Daly's YouTube channel. Everything I have done in terms of talks and documentaries can be found on thomasland.co.uk. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've learned something. See you later.